Friday and we are not at TKM. So we canceled. I had some stuff pop up this week, Wednesday, that mentally slapped me slam out of my mindset, my game. So knocked the wind out my sails mentally, and I was checked out. So in order to make TKM on Friday, I needed to work Tuesday night late, which I did. I needed to work Wednesday night extremely late, and I needed to work Thursday night late, along with getting the car loaded in a trailer leave Friday morning. So it did happen. I've spoke with Kevin and tried to get this coming Friday, but he'll actually be in at a race out of town. So he said check with him Monday, and we maybe can get on the dyno for Tuesday possibly. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can get it on a dyno next week and get the tune in it. I just got blindsided last week and mentally was checked out. So had nothing to do with the car or anything like that. Sometimes life throws you unexpected curveballs and just takes a minute to get back on your game. So here we are Friday. Mike welded up the dumps this morning. So I slung them on and we're about to put back together all the other little pieces. He fixed everything and we're just going to basically spend the weekend finishing out this checklist. So we were going to go to TKM basically with the car just barely enough to run, and go on the dyno, but not have everything completed on it. So I'm hoping by the end of this weekend we'll have pretty much everything completed on this car where it is ready to go to TKM. And then when we get it back, we can kind of do alignment and like plot the suspension, do the rear end, and then maybe figure out when we're gonna take it to the track for the first time. That's kind of where my mind's at right now. But we'll see. I do have to still go to Chris and get the drive shaft speed sensor wired in, the MAC valve wired in, because he said he was gonna do all that. And now we're adding a coolant temperature sensor, which I'm probably gonna wire that myself. But we need to get that done. So he said maybe next weekend on that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I have to get the CO2 bottle filled, figure out the shifting and all that stuff. Get this all done. We're going to try to load the trailer up Sunday. I think hopefully my thought process is have the car in the trailer Sunday night, take it to the shop, park it, and that way we're ready to rock and roll and get out of here. So we still got a handful of stuff to do on that, but we're going to try to comb through it. So hopefully this is going to be the last weekend of to-do stuff, even though we'll always have stuff to do. But hopefully this will be the last weekend of kind of like a big checklist per se. So let's get at it. We've got a bunch of different things to do. We're going to get the anti-roll bar links in. Still haven't gotten them put in. We're going to get the parachute on there. I actually think I have to do a little bit more welding to that parachute thing. Mike got our adapter fixed. So he took that and we cut it right here, and then we put another fitting on. So we're good to go now. No dented fitting. I got to put our plug in it. So I got rid of the plug that we made. This is the one we made. And now that we're at the house, I have an actual Allen head plug. So I'm going to get some Teflon tape on that just in case it needs it. I think it does, but I'm doing it anyway. Put some Teflon tape on that, get that in, get the lines hooked back up, and then move on to our coolant line with our coolant sensor. Mike got that piece fabbed up. Let's see here. This is my box of junk from the shop. So he welded in a bung. So that should work perfect. We're gonna get that installed. Sensors down in there. The dumps, we got the dumps on there. I'm gonna bring the car down and mark them so you can see. That's what they look like. So they're pretty low, extremely low. But I'm gonna bring the car down to the ground and then basically take a 2x4 with a marker probably and basically draw this line kind of right here like this and cut some of this lower corner off. So try to slice that off some and maybe even like curve these ends up so to roll over. So I'm gonna mess it out a little, but I got to get done up here before I set this thing on the concrete. So hopefully when I set it down, I don't have to go back up. So that's gonna be a later on thing. But let's get the lines put in and then we will move on to finishing everything else up that we have going on under the car while we're up in the air. So this is the type of stuff that's not even on the to-do list, and then I get going and start to fix it. So coming here and addressing the starter wire. It was a little warm the other day, but I mean, it was under extreme working conditions. So this is how much I cut off of it, including that. So I literally cut the starter wire in half because it wasn't needed. So you don't need that long run of starter wire pulling all that, you know, current. So I matched it to the ground wire right here. I'm gonna get this back on and go ahead and get some nut certs in this where it's final, tucked up nice and neat. I was gonna move the coolant overflow line like we had talked about in another video, but I'm just really not feeling it right now. So I think we're just gonna tuck it up tighter in the back, and you know where the dump goes. So it's right here right now, which is in the way. So it's right here right now, which is in the way of the exhaust. All this is in case the overflow tank fills up, it then has another place to go, which is to the puke tank. So I was gonna run this through the car, but the more looking at it, I don't feel like unhooking the backside right now. So we need to get the stuff done that's, you know, important. If this thing melts in half, it's not gonna hurt anything really. You know, but I'm thinking I'm just gonna nut cert this up more nice and neat up here, and I'm thinking she'll honestly be okay. So it's not like it's directly on the header, and you know the heat's more like rolling out from here. So if we tuck it up here, I think it'll be fine. That's what we're gonna do for right now, because I don't feel like redoing that right now, running it through the car, honestly. All right, so we got that line tucked up. I think that's plenty of clearance. Like, let's see here, that's like 3 fingers between that. I mean, I understand a lot of heat comes out of here, but you know, like I said, this is only double emergency. It'll go to your overflow first, and then if it fills the overflow up, then it will take this route back to the puke tank. So I'll keep an eye on this. If this thing melts or starts to show signs of heat, then I will reroute it through the car or purchase a heat sleeve for it if I want to leave it there. But check out one cool thing I found while I'm under here. I love seeing this kind of stuff, y'all. So look right there on that transmission drain pan bolt. We got a little drip, so that's exciting. So I can't stand when, you know, leaks run down things and you can't ever find them or you don't know where they're coming from. So hopefully that's one of our leaks that we have been seeing on the floor down here, is hopefully just a loose transmission pan bolt. So I'm gonna snug that one down and pray that that fixes the other one of our leaks. Look at what this car has done to my shop floor. So all back there, you can't even see it back there. It has tore everything up. All the gasoline and fluids leaking all over this floor, even though it's epoxy. So I'm sick of these leaks. Let me get that tightened up. All right, so leaking brake fluid. What do we got? So it appears it was definitely this fitting, and it appears that them threads are all good, but the threads on that bad boy, as you can see, have been boogered up. So I'm gonna get that fitting out. I believe this is the same one. I believe I had a spare here. Get that replaced, and hopefully we can move on to no leaky brakes and bleeding them. Yeah, I would say that that thing is boogered up. So when I had to put this other fitting on, obviously it was dripping out of here. I put liquid thread sealant on this side. This is the AN, so it doesn't get it, but this side does get it. Hopefully that seals up. So I've never actually put thread sealant on a piece that was still leaking, you know, actively. So hopefully it will seal up, but if not, then I don't know. I probably have to drain all of the brake fluid out and redo it again. So hopefully it'll hold though, and we'll get to bleeding the brakes. But yeah, that was probably one of the afternoons I was angry and just sent it. So let's keep moving. Well, I'll tell you what, you change one thing and then you have to change 100 different things. It is just a non-stop battle. So of course we had Mike weld up all of our throttle brace, and now our sensor is gonna be right there on our freaking cable. So it's probably never gonna plug in. So, oh buddy, I'm gonna try to bend it. I don't really have much room right here at all, but I'm gonna try to bend this thing all around and see if I can get this cable to kick a little bit more under the throttle body, so that it's not so right here on the sensor. I swear it's just non-stop. You try to fix one thing and then you have another issue. And this is our coolant temperature sensor that we're adding, that we tapped into the thermostat housing. All right, so being the throttle cable is now, you know, just all crammed into the sensor, obviously that's not gonna work. So sensor's right here. You know, we just had a lot of clutter going on. And the throttle cable, if you look, or the actual throttle body, the part that the cable hooks into is actually you know, it falls under kind of, you know, right in line with this, whereas I had the cable out here. So the cable was already kind of curving into this, which could, I guess, in theory, pop off. It wasn't the greatest design. It worked, but this gives me a opportunity to improve. So I think we're gonna try to attempt to flip this thing back again this way, because originally when I had flipped it this way, I didn't actually have the throttle cable, or I think I did, but I didn't have the pedal finalized where I knew how much length I had to work with. And now, and I still have a little bit more adjustment in the cable, I can actually, you know, get this cable right here. So as you can see, I have plenty of cable now actually to get it back to this side. We're gonna go ahead and flip the throttle body back like it's supposed to be. And then that way, you know, the cable should be pulling like this. And hopefully I can build a bracket this morning to get this cable back on this side and make this side not so cluttered, because we got a ton going on right here, whereas this is just open real estate on this side. So let's get this thing flipped and see if we can make this work. All right, so this is what we are going to rock and roll with for now. So I fabbed up this little bracket right here. I actually used this off of my Holly bracket. It did not work on this that I bought a while back, but I fabbed this bracket up so it bolts to the top of the intake and then goes over. I'm gonna have to switch this whole setup here later. L&I Tuning, they have a picture of the setup that they use. And so I reached out to him. He gave me the part number for the item that will hook to here, because that's the part that I'm messing up. But you can see I've messed it all up. But also this, when you open this thing all the way up, it does hit the thing. Now, I don't know how much more it has. You know, I feel like it barely has anything left, but later on we might cut this off or grind this a little bit off right here, because I think we're definitely going to keep the throttle body flipped back over like this. It's really hard to find information on the Coyote on Google of like throttle body setups, man. It's really hard. Easy for the LS, but so you're kind of on your own. But on theirs, I'll put a picture of the bracket where it hangs off to the side, and then they're hooking to this piece, so it sets, you know, your cable over more in line with here, whereas I had to move mine here. But my cable it's there, it's doable, but I don't really like the angle of the cable coming out into this. I feel like over time from pulling, you know, on this, that it's going to cut. This cable is literally going to cut through this aluminum. And so we're going to keep an eye on that. Changes are going to have to be made to that within, you know, a couple months. This throttle cable is 36 inches. I definitely need something longer than 36 inches because I just don't quite have it. I'd like to have a little bit more slack where I can come out, kind of loop a little more loose. So I need maybe like a 45 inch would probably be nice, or 40 inch, somewhere between 40 and 45 would probably be a whole lot nicer. But for right now, that's going to work. That's going to get us back started. So, you know, that opened up all of our side back over here like we needed it. So we got to get this sensor wired, get this wires pulled in the car. And then I was able to just make minor adjustments to my pedal down here. Basically just change the angle of that right there so that this cable is basically coming out of that more in a straight line. So all of that still works like it's supposed to. Also need to build a throttle stop still, because I haven't done that. But we're moving on. So that was an unexpected curveball, but it had to be addressed because of the coolant temperature sensor. So you add one thing and then you get another curveball thrown at your way. And that ate up like 2.5 hours of my day so far, between figuring out the bracket, making changes, making adjustments. But overall, I'm way happier with it. Flipped back over because you have this big chunky square hanging down underneath here too, which is where my fuel pressure regulator is. So now I have tons of all my room back on my fuel pressure regulator. So very happy with that. And the throttle is actually way easier to get to than it being tucked all behind here. So, and these cables are not tight. So I know they look like they're tight, but they're not. They're just sitting there. So got all that back together, and we're gonna move on to some other stuff. All right, so got the anti-roll bar button up, got it in, and figured out our fuel pump issue. So the fuel pump, when you turn on the secondary fuel pump, I think I covered it in one of the previous videos, all of a sudden the fuel pressure goes negative. So the primary pump is running, flip the secondary one on, and you get negative fuel pressure. So I was like, that's weird. So I was like, the only thing I can think is that the secondary fuel pump is sucking the fuel out of the line to go to the motor and putting it into the tank. So basically it's either wired backwards or turned backwards. Pretty sure it can't be wired backwards. Chris knows what he's doing. and I was pretty sure it was marked, you know, negative, positive. I remember looking at it. So got underneath there while I was doing the anti-roll bar, hooking up our links, and sure enough, the pumps turned around backwards. So it's a me issue, nobody else. I installed blinds on the wrong side. So I think we might barely have enough to not have to, you know, modify the wiring or anything. I think I might be able to flip everything, leave all the hoses the same. Wiring, I think, might barely reach. I got to look at that, but I'm going to do that outside because it's going to stink. You know, I need to drain the fuel out of this anyway because we're going to switch to X85L when we get to TKM this week. So we're just going to go ahead and drain the fuel out because I'm not trying to crank this thing again at all.